Hey guys, welcome back to One Stop Biology. So in today's video, we are going to continue with the chapter biotechnology. So we have started off with the chapter biotechnology principles and processes, which is chapter 11 of class 12th NCERT. So guys, in the previous videos, we discussed what are the different principles of biotechnology, where we discussed bioprocess engineering, right? And genetic and engineering. And then in the last video, we started off with tools of recombinant DNA technology, right? And in that we covered restriction enzymes, right? So we basically covered what are the different kind of restriction in the enzymes, what is the nomenclature of these enzymes, and how are they used in the recombinant DNA technology. So the second tool of the recombinant DNA technology that we are going to study today is cloning vectors. So guys, basically, plasmids, bacteriophages, all these microorganisms have the ability to replicate within bacterial cells. So basically, there are various, types of, say, genetic material. Say in the case of plasmids, it is an extra chromosomal DNA, which is circular in shape, right? And another one is bacteriophages. So again, in that you have extra chromosomal DNA. So basically, what they do is when they enter into another bacterial cell, they have the ability to replicate themselves, independent of the control of the that particular cell's chromosomal DNA. Right. So basically, say in case of bacteriophages, because of their high number per cell, right, they can make the copies of their genome at a very high rate, right? In the similar way, there are some plasmids that may have only one or two copies per cell, whereas there might be plasmids which would be having, 15 to 100 copies per cell, right? So with different type of plasmids, there are different type of ability of them to replicate. Right. Now, this number, this 100 can even go up to a very high, number. And, these are used as vectors. And these are genetically engineered and to transfer, DNA into a target cell. So what are the features that are required to facilitate, cloning into a vector? Basically, what is cloning? So I hope you would have understood the previous video. You would have gone through the previous videos. If not, please go through it as I have explained cloning very, in detail in the very first video. So basically, cloning is nothing but ability to make copies, right? Ability to make copies of the target gene that you want to, insert into a cell, right? So this ability to make, multiple identical copies of a template DNA is nothing but cloning. So basically, these are what? These are cloning vectors. So there are several features which are required to facilitate cloning into a vector. So the first one that we discussed in the first video as well is origin of replication. It is what? It is origin of replication or ORI. Okay, so basically, origin of replication is a sequence from where the replication starts. So basically, replication starts from the ori. Replication starts from ori, right? So this is the sequence from where replication starts, and any piece of DNA, when linked to this sequence, can be made to replicate within the host cell, right? So basically, if you want to insert a particular DNA sequence into a vector, you have to have the sequence from where the replication starts, which is origin of replication. Now, this sequence is also responsible for controlling the copy number of the linked DNA, right? So, say if you want to recover many copies of the target DNA, it should be cloned in the vector whose origin supports high copy number. So basically, it does not just, make replication possible in the host cell, it also controls the copy number. So ORI also controls the copy number, right? So this is the first feature that is required in a cloning vector. Now the second feature is selectable marker. So what are selectable markers? So basically guys, in addition to these origin of replication, these ORI, the vector also requires a selectable marker. Now this selectable marker. So basically, guys, this selectable marker, it helps in identifying and eliminating non-transformants, and it selectively permits the growth of transformants, right? So it helps in identifying and eliminating what? Non-transformants, and it permits it permits growth of transformants. Now, what are transformants? So, basically, guys, transformation is a procedure through which a piece of DNA is introduced in the host bacterium. Now, the genes encoding, so basically, normally what happens is that the genes encoding resistance to, say, antibiotics such as ampicillin or tetracycline or things like that, right? So, these are considered as useful selectable markers for E. coli. Now, what happens is that the normal E. coli do not carry resistance against any of these antibiotics, right? So basically, this transformation is nothing but basically these transformants are nothing but these are certain, say sequences, right, of DNA which is introduced in a host bacterium, right? So basically, if this through which this through this sequence, the piece of DNA is introduced into the host, right? So these markers which select transformants and non-transformants and act on that are also required. Now the third feature that is required is cloning site. Now say in order to link the alien DNA, the outside DNA into the vector needs to have sites which are known as recognition sites. Now, these recognition sites are for whom? These recognition sites are for restriction enzymes, right? So, these recognition sites, or you can also call them as recognition sequences, right? So, these are the recognition sequences which are present for the restriction enzyme to act on it. Now, guys, for a vector to be a good cloning vector, there should be very few recognition sites, and preferably just one. So what happens is if say there are more than one recognition sites within the vector, the restriction enzymes will create several fragments, right? And because of these various fragments, the entire gene cloning part will be complicated, right? So basically, the ligation of alien DNA is carried out at the restriction site present in one or two antibiotic resistance genes. Say, for example, you can ligate a foreign DNA at the BAMH1 site. I'll mention it, repeat. So say what I'm doing is I am ligating, I'm adding a foreign DNA which is BAMH1, right? And this is the site of tetracycline resistance gene vector, and the vector is PBR322. So the vector is PBR322, and the foreign DNA will get ligated at the site BAMH1. Now, the recombinant plasmid will lose tetracycline resistance due to insertion of this foreign DNA, but it can still be selected out from non-recombinant ones by plating the transformants on tetracycline containing medium. Right? So the transformants growing on ampicillin, say containing medium, are then transferred on a medium containing tetracycline. And these recombinants will grow in ampicillin containing medium, but on that, not on that containing tetracycline, right? Now, these non-recombinants, now if we talk about non-recombinants, they will grow on the medium containing both the antibiotics, whether it is tetracycline or it is ampicillin, right? Now here you can see in this diagram as well, guys. So basically, this is the E. coli cloning vector, which is PBR322. Now this is showing restriction sites, right? So the restriction sites are HIND 3, then ECO R1, then BAMH1, then SAL1, then PVU2, then you have PST1, and you have CLA1, right? So these are the different restriction sites. Now, apart from that, there is an origin of replication, right? There's an origin, and then there are antibiotic resistance genes. So the antibiotic resistance genes are here for ampicillin and here for tetracycline. Okay. Now there is one which is ROP. So ROP basically codes for the protein which is involved in the replication of the plasmid. I just left PVU1, PVU1 and PVU2. We have both, right? So now this is a cloning vector, guys. It has various restriction sites, basically restriction sites for various, um, um, you know, um, alien DNA or things like that, right? Alien the DNA which is to be inserted, and there is origin of replication, and then there are antibiotic resistance genes which are inserted. So there's one inserted for ampicillin, there is another inserted for tetracycline, right? And I'll repeat again that the transformants growing on ampicillin containing medium, if they are transferred into a medium containing tetracycline, they will grow in ampicillin containing medium, but they'll not grow in tetracycline containing medium, right? But the non-recombinants, they'll grow in both the mediums, right? So basically, in this case, what is happening is one antibiotic resistance gene helps in selecting the transformants, and the other antibiotic resistance gene gets inactivated due to insertion of alien DNA, and that helps in selection of recombinant, right? Now, this selection of recombinant requires simultaneously plating on two different plates having different antibiotics, and that is why alternative selectable markers have been developed which differentiate recombinants from non-recombinants on the basis of their ability to produce color in the presence of chromogenic substrate. So what happens in that? In this, a recombinant DNA is inserted within the coding sequence. Say, we'll take an example. So say a recombinant DNA is inserted within the coding sequence of enzymes galactosidase. Okay. Now this results into inactivation of the gene for synthesis of this enzyme. Now this is known as insertional inactivation. This is known as insertional inactivation. Okay, so presence of a chromogenic substrate gives blue colored colonies if the plasmid in bacteria does not have an insert. Okay, and presence of insert results into insertional inactivation of beta galactosidase gene, and the colonies do not produce any color. So these are basically identified as recombinant colonies. So basically with the help of this color coding, you are able to distinguish, right? Now let's see the next type of requirement, which is basically, you know, important if we want to facilitate cloning in a vector, right? So the fourth one is basically, guys, vector for cloning gene in plant and animals. So say now, guys, say we'll take an example. Say we'll take an example of Agrobacterium tumefaciens, right? So this is a pathogen which basically causes problems in several dicot plants, right? So basically this pathogen is able to deliver a piece of DNA which is known as tDNA, which is known as tDNA, and that transforms normal cell into tumor. Right, so this is a pathogen which is found in various dicot plants, and what it does is it delivers a piece of DNA which is known as tDNA, and because of this tDNA, the normal cells transform into tumor, and then these basically tumor cells. So basically, this tDNA direct these tumor cells to produce chemicals which are required by the pathogen. Right. Now, in similar way, we have retroviruses in animals. So retroviruses again have the ability to transform normal cells into cancerous cells. So we have retroviruses which transform normal cells into cancerous cells. Right. So basically, this art of delivering gene by a pathogen in, say, a eukaryotic host has generated knowledge to transform these tools of pathogens into useful vectors as well. So what they are doing is they are causing harm. But this basically led to the discovery of transferring good DNA, which can be helpful in several diseases, into a host as well, right? So say now there is a tumor inducing plasmid which is known as ti plasmid, in which where this has in Agrobacterium tumefaciens itself there is a tumor inducing plasmid as well. So what we did is that we modified that into a cloning vector, which is no more pathogenic to the plants. So it will not cause tumor and will still be able to use the mechanism to deliver gene of our interest into a variety of plants. Right? In similar way, we have disarmed retroviruses as well, and we use these retroviruses to deliver desirable genes into animal cells, right? So guys, the second tool basically we saw is the importance of cloning vectors. Now apart from that, the third tool required for recombinant DNA technology is having a competent host. So a competent host also is required for transformation with recombinant DNA. Now say since DNA is hydrophilic molecule, it cannot pass through the cell membrane, right? So in order to force bacteria to take up the plasmid, the bacterial cells first must be made competent to take up that DNA. Now this is done by treating them with a specific concentration. Concentration of what? A divalent cation, say such as calcium. Now, because of this cation, this divalent cation, this increases the efficiency with which DNA enters the bacteria through the pores in its cell wall. Right. So in this way, we can force recombinant DNA into cells by incubating the cells, say, with recombinant DNA on ice. And then we do what? We give them a heat shock. So then we put it on ice and then we place it at say around 42 degrees Celsius and then back again in ice. Right. So this basically, cooling down and then giving heat shock and doing it again and again, this enables the bacteria to take up the recombinant DNA, right? So this is one method. There is another method where what we do is we basically micro inject. So the method itself is known as micro injection, where we inject the recombinant DNA directly into the nucleus of the animal cell, right? So there's micro injection as well. Then there is another method which is basically suitable for plants, wherein cells are bombarded with high velocity microparticles of gold or tungsten, and these gold and tungsten particles are basically coated with DNA. Now this is known as biolistics or gene gun. So basically what you are doing is, say you are creating a bullet, right? And this bullet is made up of gold or tungsten, and you coat the entire bullet with DNA, with the alien DNA that you want to insert inside the cell. Now, what you do is you bombard the cells with these bullets, right? These are high velocity microparticles, right? And it enters into the cell, right? And then it will get inserted into the DNA, right? In the same way, there are another methods like disarmed pathogens. So what we do is basically we allow the cell to be infected, and because of this infection, the recombinant DNA, the recombinant DNA is inserted into the host. Since it is a disarmed pathogen, it will not cause any disease, but it will insert or transfer the recombinant DNA into the host. So these are several methods of inserting the recombinant DNA which is formed inside the host. But yes, guys, always remember that the host has to be competent enough to take up the recombinant DNA that we have formed, right? So, guys, with this, we have finished all the various tools which are required for recombinant DNA technology. I hope you would have understood all the tools properly. So, please do like this video and share it with your friends as much as you can. And, guys, if you have any doubt in regards to this video, please do not hesitate in asking the doubts. You can either drop in through comments on the video, or you can also message your doubts on the WhatsApp number. The number is given in the description of the video. And yes, guys, if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon to get all the updates on of this channel that I'll be putting in. Thanks for watching this video, guys. See you in the next one. Bye bye.